I started working on this program 3 years ago. They have a really, really bright guy who sees the benefits of a cart delivery system versus a fork truck. And it took us 3 years to get management. And this company makes a lot of money. It's not like it's an issue. Well, it turns out we got the program going now. We did an initial test in one department, in one factory, and the results were so fantastic. The company immediately released the program for the entire plant, and then I got a call and said, how quick can we do all the plants?
The IndustrialSage Executive Series, sharing the stories behind game-changing executives, their organizations, and insights into today's industry challenges.
Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of IndustrialSage. This is the Executive Series, and today I have a very special guest. I have Ed Brown, who is the president of Topper Industrial. Ed, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of IndustrialSage.
Good morning, Danny. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it as well. We were just chatting before we started. You said it's a very warm and balmy 20-ish degrees in Milwaukee. Is that right?
It is, and we got a little snow, but I know I'm jealous. We wish we were somewhere it was warmer, but it's a good place to live.
No, the Midwest is great. I love it up there. Especially there's a lot of great winter sports, and the summers are just absolutely beautiful up there. So
they are.
So for those who aren't familiar with Topper, real quick, if you could just give me a quick little synopsis of Topper Industrial, who you guys are, what you do, and then we'll dive into a little bit more about you.
Oh, no problem at all. As you mentioned, Topper Industrial is located in Sturtevant, Wisconsin. We're about 15 miles south of Milwaukee. We've been in this location since we started the company in 1994. We started out, my background, I'm an engineer, went to the University of Wisconsin, which I'm very proud of. We started out as a young guy. I was really involved in welding and metal fabricating. And so I started a business that we primarily built material handling racks. And what I mean by that, we would be welding up racks for Harley-Davidson to ship engines from their assembly plant in Milwaukee to York, Pennsylvania. We would build engines for engine racks. It's a structural steel device that you would put a finished product on, normally pretty durable, and we would then ship that to various customers. Chrysler, in the earlier days, became a very big customer. They had a plant in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which has long been closed, but it was a huge stepping stone, and that Chrysler had become a major customer for us, and they have been ever since, and they still are. There's some things about that later on we can brag about maybe a little bit if we have time. But an interesting thing happened in 1999. I got a call from a Chrysler plant indicating they wanted to switch from a fork truck delivery system to a cart delivery system. It's the first time I've heard of it. When I got the call, I thought it was odd. I've never heard of such a thing, but it was the first time I heard the term lean, which of course I learned to embrace, and I'm a big supporter of lean. And we did do that project, Danny. It isn't quite the system we have today, but in the process, it launched what Topper Industrial is today. We primarily today design and build material handling delivery carts. And in most cases, the delivery system consists of a tugger. We're just starting to break into AGVs. We've done a few of those programs where the carts make a delivery, but instead of a fork truck delivering one pallet of parts to replenish parts on an assembly line, we now will pull 5, 6, 7 carts, and in the process they pick up empties. And the primary most common system is a cart is filled with some parts. Can be a motorcycle assembly line, could be a car assembly line, could be anything, or even a workstation, where we deliver the parts to the workstation in a cart. The operator works out of that cart When the cart is empty, we replenish it with a new cart. And when you are looking at cart delivery, which is what it is today, it's called fork truck free now. Cart delivery is kind of lost. It's been lost, and the term now is fork truck free. And that's not actually truly accurate. But the reason is, fork trucks are inefficient. Fork trucks are dangerous. I'm not sure if you or your audience know this, but every single day in the United States, 100 people are severely hurt by a fork truck every day.
Yep.
It'll happen today, it'll happen tomorrow. So the primary goal from the safety side of it is to keep the fork truck away from people. From on a productivity and lean style, we like the delivery of the carts because it eliminates waste and you're much more productive. I'm going to take a break because I feel like I'm rambling, Danny.
No, it's okay.
Maybe we could. Okay. So today Topper is a fairly good size cart manufacturer and designer, and we build carts for everything under the sun, from rocket boosters to feathers. Wow. I mean, and everything in between.
That is anything and everything in between. So I kind of want to go back for a second. So you mentioned you graduated from the University of Wisconsin. You said you were very proud of that. What was how did you kind of jump into taking in that entrepreneurial spirit? Like, did you start the business right then? Or what did that look like, and how did you eventually go into starting your own company?
Well, Danny, I've never had an opportunity to do this, and I'm gonna take advantage of you a little bit and brag about something that
Please.
happened.
Yeah.
When I was a senior in high school, I was a kind of a maverick. I was afraid of sciences and math, and I took all shop courses. And I had this wonderful teacher. His name was Greg Pecora, and he never got credit for this. He was my English teacher, and I wasn't going to pass English and get a diploma in high school. And he made me a deal. He said, if you get a part in the high school play, I'll give you a passing grade, even though I didn't do one single book report. And I lived up to the deal. I got the part, and I actually didn't think I got my high school diploma because of this guy. Sometime afterwards, a friend of mine was in the hospital. I had not gone to college. I was working as a car mechanic, and I went to the hospital, and Greg Pecora was there. He had, I think it was appendix. I don't remember what the symptoms were, but he really insisted I try to go into college. And he had me take an ACT test, which I did horrible, and I thought I still was capable of going to college. Well, after I got my ACT test and I showed it to him, he actually pulled some strings at the University of Whitewater, which is a local college that he got me to go to on a program. And of course, when I got there, I was a different guy. I don't sit in the back anymore. I sat in front. And I did well, and I transferred to Wisconsin, where I ultimately got. But there was a high school English teacher, and I never got time. And he died, and of course I thanked him many times for helping me do that. Well, when I got out of college, I was working for my next door neighbor when I was a kid, about 10, 11 years old. He taught me how to weld, and had a big influence on my life. So I actually went to work for him. He was in the earlier days, our company, and we're talking a long time ago, believe it or not, built television towers, which was his only product when I joined the company. I'm the guy who met with then what was called, believe it or not, American Motors, which Chrysler bought, and we started building racks for American Motors and Chrysler. We then merged with another company, and we became a minority partner in that company. And it did not work well. After 10 years, we split up. But in that process, I had discovered that material handling we had a niche for material handling devices. And today we do conveyors and gravity conveyors and carts and all kinds of things. So we left that company, and I started this company. That was in 1994. And all I went after was material handling related equipment. And that's kind of how I got where I am today. I'm going to take a break and see if you have any questions, if you want me to go in a different direction. But I want to thank you for letting me say that, because no one's ever heard that.
No, I think, well, that's sort of the point and the purpose of why we want to do this executive series a little bit more is instead of just talking about, business and here's the objectives, here what we're doing. Yeah, we're going to get to that stuff, but I take a very personal interest in the stories. And I think it's very interesting just to hear, that's very interesting to me to see the massive influence that an English teacher had, a ripple effect.
Sure.
And I think it helps to create context to look around what you have built and how you've gotten there. And I think
Sure.
it's super interesting, and I think our audience finds that very interesting as well. So, what was it? I want to kind of go back with this English teacher a little bit. What was it that, made that impact? Was it pushing and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to push you in this direction and challenge you"? Is that something that, do you hear his voice or something with you when you say, "Hey, now I want, we're going to go into this company, let's start another one," or what was the motivating force behind that?
That's an interesting question because, first of all, in his class, and I still have the characteristic, I'm the joker. I'm the one that tries to get everybody laughing in the room. That characteristic has stayed with me my whole life, but in a different direction in that, tried to do it in a positive. I was disruptive and a troublemaker, but this guy just saw something, and I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And one of the interesting things is when I got to Whitewater, my first semester, my resident assistant was an ex-Air Force guy, and I was lucky because that guy taught me good study habits and notes and how to really, be effective in a classroom. But just to brag a little bit about Mr. Pecora, I actually went to the high school advisor, and I won't say his name, doesn't matter. And he said, after he's seen the ACT test, he said, go back to being a car mechanic. At the time, it was considered a good job at a new car dealership. But Pecora, he wouldn't have it, so he actually knew the dean of admissions, got me in, and my second semester, I got pretty good grades, all A's. But I was motivated, and now I have found that there's a new person inside of me I didn't know was there. When I brought that, I started mid-year, so it was the second Christmas. When I brought my grades home, of course, I had to go see this guy. And he said, would you bring him to Horlick tomorrow? And I said, of course I would. And we went and seen the teacher, and he said, do you remember this guy? And he said, sure. And he showed all my grades, and he said, you told me I wasn't smart enough to go to college. And that Pecora was kind of a really special guy. And, I know there's lots of excellent teachers out there, but I happened to be in the right classroom with the right guy. And in addition to him pushing me to do this, it didn't matter. It helped a lot that the girl I was dating at the time loved the idea of going to college. And my next door neighbor who had taught me how to weld, he was an engineer from Wisconsin, and he was so excited about it. Actually, my family didn't take me to school. My next door neighbor did, and he actually became my father-in-law. I married his daughter many years later, but
that's awesome.
And so there was a number of things had to fall into place, and believe me, that first semester I was a pretty lonely guy, and I thought about quitting a few times. And his name was Robert Hedstrom. I would call him up and say I want to come home, and he said no, stay. But I stuck it out, of course. And after that first semester was done, you knew you were going to finish. But it took a while to get in the groove. But the right people were there. But Pecora clearly is the guy who grabbed me by the neck and said, you got to do this. Life's too short, and there's so much you can do with it. And of course, I thank him a lot because I'm the first one I have 8 sisters and brothers. I'm the only one that got a high school diploma out of my family, let alone go to college. So it was kind of special.
Very special. Very special. That's awesome. That is awesome. So, you started the company, you said in 94, and you said you've done everything and anything in between, just you mentioned rocket booster, like karting for the, all kinds of crazy cool stuff. What are you doing these days? Like your role in the organization?
Well, I didn't want to correct you on this interview, but I'm no longer the president. I've become the CEO. I've taken over R&D. Pretty much still function as the chief engineer. We have half a dozen really good designers here today, but one thing is kind of fun in that some of the designers haven't had a lot of math and understanding engineering. One of the fun things that I get to do is we actually have classes now where I can explain engineering in terms of statics, dynamics, strength of material, and as they build something, we analyze it for stability and strength to make sure that what we build is strong enough and will never fail. But from the standpoint of just being a businessman, the company's in a good position. It's profitable. It's stable. We don't have debt. And over the last 10 years, my son, who's Ryan Brown, who's running the company, has just completely redone the company from the ground up. And what I mean by that is we have the best equipment that you can imagine. When I started out, we had an iron worker. Today we have CNC lathes, CNC mills, band saws, lasers, plasma. About a week ago, we ordered a brand new, it's called a tube laser, most expensive machine we ever bought. But what you can do with that is you can build the best equipment possible. I try to build a reputation, and I think we have. We're maybe not be the cheapest cart in the world, or our solutions aren't the cheapest, but we like to think they're the best and most durable. Most everything we build gets a 5-year warranty. However, most of it doesn't need attention even at that point. It's just well designed and well built. So we try to pride ourselves on that, and that's made it a lot easier with having the right equipment. It's kind of nice. Even welders today have gone from MIG to fusion, and they're expensive, but they weld they weld excellent, and they have no splatter or debris. So it makes the finished product look that much nicer.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, that's great to hear. Some of that, that transition and just that focus on quality. There's been a lot of change in the industry over the last. I mean, there's a tremendous amount. I mean, I know that you've seen a lot from from '94 to now. I think from a material handling standpoint, with the whole, we'll call it the Amazon effect, with needing to get things done faster. I mean, you have the lean manufacturing is a big piece. With having much tighter supply chains needs. What are the big challenges that you're seeing in the industry right now?
Wow, there's actually quite a few. Believe it or not, I still we've been building carts and converting to fork truck free delivery for almost 20 years. Well, actually 20 years, 21. And I'm still surprised, and I can't say company names. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. How you go to a major manufacturer, somebody who's been in business for 100 years, and they have multiple plants in the United States, and how they are unaware. I want to say ignorant, but unaware of the benefits and the cost savings and the safety improvements that they could make by implementing equipment that usually has a payback of very quick, a year, 2 years at the most. And there are many companies out there on cutting edge, Danny. Don't get me wrong, but I want to give an example. I can't say a name, and I mean, if I had thought of it, I would have asked for permission. But we're building carts right now for a company that builds diapers, and they build a lot of diapers, millions and millions a day. And the system, they have many plants in the United States. I started working on this program 3 years ago. They have a really bright guy who sees the benefits and of a cart delivery system versus a fork truck. And it took us 3 years to get management. And this company makes a lot of money. It's not like it's an issue. Well, it turns out we got the program going now. We did an initial test in one department. at one factory, and the results were fantastic. The company immediately released the program for the entire plant, and then I got a call and said, "How quick can we do all the plants?" And it went from they've finally seen the light. And um, I want to give you an example of something we did just a few months ago. It's a light manufacturer. They build a lot of the lights that are on streets and stuff. We put in a cart delivery system, and if later on I'll get into that if you want to hear about it. But what they did in the process, believe it or not, this plant runs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And in the beginning, before they put in cart delivery in their fork trucks, they had 30 people, 30 material handlers on each shift, all 3 shifts. They also had, I don't remember the real numbers, but on fork trucks. But I know that the savings were excessive. We eliminated over 40 fork trucks.
Wow.
And we eliminated, there was only 13 people on each shift doing material handling using the cart system versus the fork truck. So their return on investment was extremely fast, and of course, and that was only a third of the plant. We still have 2 more parts to do, and we just got orders to do the rest of their plant. So, and this is another company that one's actually pretty close to us. It's in Wisconsin, and I think we went back and forth for 2 to 3 years, looking at the signs. And there's also not a bad, but there is a pushback. I probably personally have converted over 100 plants from fork truck delivery to cart delivery, and I can tell you almost every single one, when you walk in, employees of the company are angry and against. They're very negative toward the carts because they think they're going to make their jobs harder. Well, I can tell you this: every single case, we walked away winners, and in most cases, I get a hug when I leave. So there's still a mentality out there that cart delivery isn't as good as it is, and it's a shame because fork trucks are inefficient, they're expensive, they're heavy, they're dangerous, and carts are efficient. Carts are lean. When I learned what lean was, and the fact that carts could be such a big part of reducing waste and the continuous improvement, just from the standpoint, when you have a fork truck in a stationary station at a work cell, if you want to change the package or part presentation, it's a major deal. In our case, change the cart. And it's simple, it's flexible, and it's actually so much easier. So that's one of the things that we fight daily. But you would think that the world would know.
Yeah.
We recently developed a cart for, I'll even say it's Toyota. Of course, a leader in lean, major leader in lean.
Yeah.
And fortunate to be a supplier to them and get involved. And we developed a new barrel cart. You may think that in addition, you can imagine how difficult a 55-gallon drum of anything. I don't care what's in that drum. They're 500-600 pounds, and they get exchanged in some places constantly. And instead of having all that equipment, we put the barrel on a cart, and you do a cart exchange, and it's phenomenal improvement. But I mean, that's a tip of the iceberg. What we can do with them,
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned something earlier on. You said you guys are starting to kind of move into the AGV, world a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about that. That's obviously, robotics and AGVs. Automation is a very hot topic right now. What are you guys doing in that space to address some of those needs that are coming up?
I think we're on top of it pretty strongly. In the last month, we did a system for a company that uses an AGV, a well-known, very reliable piece of equipment that we've done many projects with. And we build power roller carts, and each cart can be a single or a dual position cart. We actually put a PLC with a bunch of sensors on it. So the AGV primarily does the tracking and the stop and starting that's based on its computer. The stop and starting is based on after the cart is positioned, the computer on our cart will talk to the computer on the work cell and say we're here and either give me a load or take a load. And I'm really proud of the fact that we just delivered 16 carts. They're dual stations, so that what it basically does when it pulls up, these are all in this application. The cart pulls up to a machine and takes 2 loads off finished product. It takes it to the AGV takes it to a shipping dock where a fork will lift it off the cart and puts it on a semi. It's very, very, very successful program, and we're pleased that when we put it into November, not one single glitch. Of course, we had a good bunch of really good electrical engineers setting up the routes and debugging and programming the computers that they all are working properly. But very, very happy with the success. We've been involved with maybe a half a dozen AGV manufacturers, and we've done a little work for all of them. It's a fairly expensive installation, and takes the right company. Sometimes I've heard it, and I'm not sure, Danny, if this is true. It certainly this one it was, and that to make that system pay for itself. They need to have a company that works 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, which this one does, and I don't think it ever shuts down. Like, man, I mean, even at Christmas, I think they make so much structural styrofoam product. It's unimaginable what we consume in this country, how big we are. But we're seeing more and more of that. But it's primarily major companies with high volume production requirements.
That makes sense. Yeah. So what, I guess as we look to wrap up the interview here, what does the future look like for Topper as relative to products or innovations or?
I hope I hope my interpretation and my children. One thing I'd like to highlight a little bit is that this company was a really good company. It became a great company. I have 5 children who joined the company, and when they were young kids, I used to wonder if they'd even want to come to work with me. But they all, one got a degree in business, one got one in marketing, one got in engineering, and so we got a really neat package. And that Ryan taking over the day-to-day operation, and I get to do the R&D. It's been a really nice combination, and the kids are, in my opinion, very smart, and they really do a good job. We are continuing. I'm not sure, Danny, right now, but I don't know, maybe 20, 30 patents that we like to think we're very innovative and creative and committed to, doing a super job. I can't tell you that we've never done a job that the customer wasn't happy, but we didn't leave till they were. So that I think we have a good reputation of always finishing it. Our company has a philosophy we don't like, and we're pretty good at this. We don't like to grow more than 20-25% a year. A few years ago, we doubled it over a year, and it was very difficult financially. It was very difficult to buy people. It was difficult to get equipment. So, believe it or not, you can do a lot more business and make less money than if you control things and you're really keeping an eye on things. So that we see that. We've actually bought the land next to our existing building. We're ready to put up a new facility. And it's based on the fact that, I don't know, the last 10 years, it's worked well for us. By controlling the growth, we control the quality, we control the delivery schedule, and of course, everything's much better on a system where you have that. Business has not been a problem. We have too much. I'm trying not to. All indicators are even during the recession. There are some that this, from an economic standpoint, I don't see a downturn for us, and by becoming I don't know, less dependent on financing with banks and stuff, we've actually been through a recession like everybody else did,
Mm-hmm.
and it was tough. We diversified because we were primarily automotive during that. Automotive is still a big part of this company, but it's not the major part anymore. And we found out that there's a number of companies, and I don't want to say too much, who are more recession proof, and we made sure that we are suppliers to them, because I can't control what's going to happen with the economy.
Right.
But I'm to make sure that I've covered all the bases, and that I can't say we're recession proof. I don't know if that's possible, but I think we're very close. And we keep cash on hand. We try to, who would ever think in your lifetime that General Motors and Chrysler go bankrupt? I didn't.
Yeah.
The bank that I'm with, that I started with when I started the company, is still with, said that would never happen. Well, even the bank never thought General Motors and Chrysler go bankrupt, and at that time they were my two biggest customers. They still are today. We're very proud of our relationship with all the automotive people. One of the things they get to brag about a little bit, like a Chrysler or a Kia, they only will use our equipment because it's tested and sure reliable, and it's a good design. And we have many customers that will only use Topper equipment because they tried others and it's failed, and we go the extra mile in terms of designing and testing to make sure our equipment's made out of the proper metals and built right and all that stuff,
Great. No, it sounds like you guys there's a lot of growth for you, hopefully managed growth, making sure that it's, because growing too fast sometimes has some challenges with it. But it sounds like you guys are really poised, set up for the future. Looks like you guys have had just a great several 20 plus years doing this. It sounds like you guys have got some fabulous products. I love hearing about what you guys are doing now with the AGVs and answering that challenge, and helping to really educate your customers on how to use these solutions, and how your solutions are really helping to tell that sustainability story, really help from a safety aspect. It sounds like you guys are doing fantastic.
Well, we feel pretty good where we are. Don't think we take this for granted. We work hard. We're very fortunate to have a great group of salespeople who are hardworking guys, and they're all from the business, and I'm proud of every one of them. There was a time when I was the only salesman for this company, and that was one of the harder jobs to give up, believe it. Yeah. I enjoyed immensely all my relationships with all the companies that we've built, the hundreds and hundreds over the years, and that I maintained friendships with a lot of them to this day. And it's been a real fun ride. I hope the kids enjoy it as much as I have. I'm getting ready to take it a little bit easier, they tell me. But I really enjoy being here. I love the challenge. And you asked me earlier, what's it like to get up in the morning? I usually have a list I do every night, what I want to do the next day. I'm kind of get up and go. There's a lot going on in the world and a lot of opportunities. And I actually feel bad that I'm getting up in the years and that I've had another 50 to do this, because I'm not sure where they're going to end up with all of it. But we still enjoy it a lot. It's fun.
That's awesome. Well, Ed, I really thank you for joining me today on IndustrialSage. If anybody would like to learn more about Topper, what's the best way? What's your website, I guess?
www.topperindustrial.com. Please contact us about anything. We love a challenge. That's interesting. I'm glad I want to bring one thing up. You think from a cart standpoint, we've yet to see anything we can't put on a cart. As we mentioned earlier, I can say it. We build carts for rocket boosters for SpaceX out in California. And
that's
kind of
cool.
fun to be a part of all these things. That caveman who invented the wheel, I'd like to meet him, because without wheels, I wouldn't have a business. But no, I appreciate you taking time. Let's tell you a little bit about Topper. We're proud of it.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story too. It was great to just hear the background.
Well, but here I am, and just you don't forget your roots,
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, Danny, take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so there you go. Another great episode of Industrial Sage round up our executive series. So this is a new format that we're going to be rolling out with when we talk to our different executives, just to hear really their stories and to hear how the background of the career paths. I just love hearing this, family-owned business, hearing the story, how everyone's involved. I thought it was actually really neat that that Ed's kids are coming in, running the business and have backgrounds in marketing and engineering. It just sounds like what they're doing is super innovative. I loved the story and the aspect of his high school English teacher who, obviously made a really big pivotal impact. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this series. We're going to be rolling out more of these as 2020 rolls on. And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them for you on the show. You can reach out to us at industrialsage.com/questions. And if you are listening on any of the podcast stations, we'd love a review. Hey, share the love on social media. And I'll be back next week with another episode of Industrial Sage. Thanks for watching.
Industrial Sage is an open platform where companies can showcase their expertise and solutions to a captive audience of industrial professionals. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and while you're there, please leave us a review. Want us to tell your story? Go to IndustrialSage.com. This week's episode was produced by Rika Wiersma, filming by Donovan Jones, editing by Rika Wiersma, music composed by Oliver Michael, and executive producers Danny Gonzalez and David Karen. This is the Industrial Sage Executive Series.